Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Prodigy from Kilo 23. Hasn't been a whole lot of gameplay footage or reviews lately. I've been trying to put the footage up from every game every month. Just haven't really had a lot of time to do reviews lately. Been a lot of work. I'm out of class, trying to find a job. Trying to find a job without job experience in a particular field is impossible, and it takes a heck of a lot of work. So that's kind of where I'm at in life right now. So I'm trying to find a new job and still trying to continue with my Airsoft YouTube channel. And it's tough to find a balance sometimes. So I'm trying to get a little more work out there as far as Airsoft and YouTube goes, and it can be a little difficult. So bear with me there. I know I don't have a whole lot of new content coming out all the time like everyone else, but you got to work with me a little bit here. But thankfully, the new field we've been playing at, Forest Fire Airsoft, fantastic field. If you guys are anywhere within an hour or two of Arlington, Washington, come out and play. Our next game is the first Saturday of November. We're still trying to tighten things down and make things a little more just fast-paced and fun, and it's really, I think we're doing a great job, and people seem to have a lot of fun. We're getting 20 or 30 players out there every session, which is enough. And it's a 30-acre field, so it's a ton of fun. So if you guys are able to come out, please come out. But the owner of the field actually picked up a couple of the Tippman M4s. Tippman, actually, if you guys know paintball at all, they make paintball guns. Who knew? They actually make an airsoft gun too, and this is the only one they make, is the Tippman M4 Carbine. They actually make a shorter version as well, but it's really the same thing, just a different barrel length. So we're going to be checking this out today. It's a little bit different, but I think you guys will enjoy it. It's really starting to grow on me. Right, so the Tippman M4. These are pretty pricey to get into. They're about $450 new. If you can find one used, you're probably still spending about $400. So there are two options for running this guy. A remote line and a CO2 line, and that's kind of where my controversy of this whole review is, because I'm having a hard time grading this just because of some things going on there. I'll touch on that later in the review, so let's go ahead and open the box up. You get a pretty hefty manual. There's a lot of pages to it. It's good English. Read it. Something like this, you really should read the instructions. I can understand your typical M4, you're not reading the instructions because they're all really similar as far as how they operate. This one, how it operates is actually quite a bit different, so read the instructions. They are good English. Comes with a delta ring tool or a gun wrench, whatever you want to call it. This is invaluable. Including this with a gun, I think is huge. I think every airsoft gun should have one. That's a big bonus, saves you 20 or 30 bucks. Comes with a bag of everything you need to convert it over to the remote line from CO2. Again, I said I'll touch on that in a little bit here. Comes with a couple of little rail segments you can throw on there, and a little thing of silicone oil to keep all your valves all lubricated. Also comes with one 80-round mid-capacity magazine. These are proprietary, so keep that in mind. The gun, once it's transferred over to the remote line setup, can use your standard M4 high caps, mid caps, whatever from an airsoft gun, so don't worry. If you've got a ton of mags, you can still use those. These specifically hold the CO2 canister in the magazine, so it's a little different. As soon as I'm done talking about these, we'll touch on this, because I know it's a bit of a controversial point with this gun. So, the gun itself, the Tippman M4. The first time I saw this, I will completely admit, I thought it was a terrible idea, and I didn't even want to be anywhere near it. Actually, after testing it and playing with it a little bit and checking it out a lot, I am surprised by the quality of this and how it's built. There's just a couple of things that really got on my nerves. We'll touch on that as we go on, but I'm just going to kind of start with the stock like I usually do and move my way up the gun. So the stock on this guy is your standard M4 LE stock. It's a little bit different. You don't have a metal loop down here, just a regular plastic sling loop instead, which is fine. Adjustable. I believe it's a mil-spec stock. I was able to put a couple of different stocks on here, and I didn't have any issues. They don't wobble any more or any less than anything else. So I'm happy with that. Moving up a little bit, there is a sling mount on both sides here. I thought that was a pretty big bonus. Saves me 10 or 15 bucks and the time to throw it on. The body on this guy is it's all metal, so that's a nice touch there. It's pretty sturdy, and I like the finish on it. It's very matte finish. It's not glossy at all. It's not going to scratch up or anything like that. It's just a very solid feeling gun for the most part. You get something out of the box and it doesn't creak or wobble at all, and it's just, you know, it's good right out of the box just by that feel. The selector on here feels just like a real one. Very stiff, very positive response. And you flip it over, and just like any real one, or any gas gun for that matter, it does have the visual selection on there, so you can see what you're selected on the right side. It's not an ambidextrous M4 by any means, so you kind of really need to be a righty to use it, or at least effectively. Any lefty can still use it. Bolt catch, I don't believe does anything. It's non-functional. I couldn't get it to function whatsoever. The mag catch is just like a real one. There is no screw on the right side, so you do have to actually push it through and twist it out, so that's kind of a nice plus. I really like that, actually. The charging handle doesn't have a very long pull. It's about 1.5 inch pull. That's all you really need. It actually kind of functions like an open bolt. So you do that, and the safety is kind of weird. You can pull the trigger, and it's already charged. Nothing will happen. You can actually pull the trigger now, when it's on semi, and it'll actually release. So you pull the bolt back, and it actually cycles this bolt back, and you pull the trigger and it pushes forward. So kind of different. If you don't have gas or CO2 or anything in it, you can actually do that, and your BB will just kind of drop out of the barrel. So kind of neat if you want to plink around with your cats, I guess. What else I got? Trades on this thing are engraved. Kind of a nice touch. I like them. Nothing too obnoxious or anything. They sit really well with the gun. It's got its own serial number too. This one is number 525. So maybe they didn't make a whole lot. I don't know. Moving up the gun a little bit. There are, like I was saying, there are a lot of proprietary parts on here, including the pistol grip. The pistol grip you can't really swap out with anything because it is its own design. The handguard, thankfully, can be swapped out with your standard rails and things like that. The one that's on here is completely plastic. I'm not a huge fan of it. When I picked it up, this is the first thing I noticed, and I absolutely hate the rail. All plastic. It doesn't come off on the bottom. You have to take it off side by side, and to get it back on, it's a complete pain. So I tried a couple of different handguards on here, rails, standard M4, plastic heat shields, and everything seems to fit fine, which is a big plus. The things that are not going to be interchangeable are things like the outer barrel, the front sight post, things like that. Your sights, thankfully, can be swapped out. They are just attached to the 20 mil rail, which is just perfect. They are almost complete copies of the MOE handguards from our flip-out sights from Magpul. They function the same. They almost look practically identical, except they do have the little T's on top for Tippman. And I really like these sights. I'd probably leave them on here personally. First thing I do, though, is swap out this rail. It's very solid, don't get me wrong. It's plastic. The flash hider on here, underneath it, is a 14 millimeter negative thread, so all your flash hiders and things like that are going to work no problem on here. Oh, one thing I almost forgot. The hop-up adjustment is actually this little 3 millimeter Allen key right under the dust cover. It's at an angle so you can kind of get in there, and it's unusual. I haven't really taken this apart, but there are some proprietary parts in there that obviously no airsoft gun is going to fit. So no standard M4 hop-up in this, but there are some pluses to that. This does come with a standard AEG barrel and bucking already in it, and to my knowledge they partnered up with what looks like G&G. It's got their aluminum combat machine barrel and green bucking in there from all the research I did. I haven't taken these apart. I don't want to take this apart because it's not mine. It belongs to the field I play at, so I'm not going to do that at all. But kind of cool. You can swap that out, so if you want to go get a nice flat hop, or you want to R-hop your barrel, put a nice ZCI or PDI or Mad Bull barrel in there, you can do that without a problem. So, I mean, just from what I tested, the range and accuracy on this thing seems like it's roughly on par with any combat machine. Range is probably a little bit more, give or take, how your design is set up, what FPS you're shooting, things like that. I think that's most of the externals. A couple of cool features on this guy. It does have an adjustable rate of fire, and from what I could tell, most of the websites were a little different from what they said. The lowest I saw was about 8 rounds a second, and the highest I saw was about 20 rounds a second, so anywhere from 15 to 20 a second. Any reasonable player will probably agree with me that 15 or 20 a second is plenty. And about the hottest I saw this shooting was right around 400 FPS as far as online ratings go. In a second, we'll go chrono this thing and see what we're getting. I don't have a remote line to plug into it, unfortunately, so we're just going to be testing the CO2 magazine. So the CO2 magazine is a little bit different. It holds 80 rounds. It's a mid-cap mag, just like any standard AEG mag, except it does have a little hole in the back for a 12-gram CO2 cartridge. I picked up some Crossman pack of 5 cartridges just to test this out from Big 5 this morning, so we'll be using those during our chrono test. Basically, you hold this button down on the left side of it, and that's like your little detent. So once that's pressed down, your cartridge can drop in or drop out, whichever. So you push that down, drop it in, and once you put it in the gun, that is when your CO2 cartridge is punctured. So if you run out of ammo and you need to reload, the second you push that and you still have gas in there, it's going to come spraying out everywhere. So that was one of my big kind of gripes I didn't like about this gun. I think it's a really bad design as far as the CO2 mag goes. Now, the good thing about that is, like I touched on earlier, you can swap it out for a remote line. You just swap out a part in the magazine and you swap out the little hole that's right there. So you can pop in your standard AEG mags, run a remote line, tank, whatever you need, and you're good to go, and it'll function just like a Polar Star, or just really like most AEGs will, except you're going to have a remote line there. So I thought that was a huge downside. I think just about every player that picks one of these up is going to get a remote line and plug it in. They're just going to say to hell with the CO2 mags. I don't like this design out of the box. So I feel like this is a gun that you're going to end up spending a decent amount of money on. They're $450 retail. You're probably going to spend a few hundred on your tank and your line and your regulator, and then you're probably going to want to replace some parts on here. I'd personally replace the barrel and bucking, go get a nice Mad Bull blue bucking and a ZCI barrel or something like that. Go get an MOE handguard or maybe a nice rail on it. New flash hider, suppressor, and probably a new stock, and maybe an optic. So you're probably looking at anywhere from $700 to $1,000 really easily just for investing in this gun, not to mention mags and things like that. So this is a really pricey thing to invest in, but if you've got the money, it can be cheaper than buying a Polar Star and potentially more fun. There's a lot more recoil to this, which is really what they're shooting for. So when you shoot this, even just charging it like this, you get some recoil. And I really like the feel of it. It's actually in a lot of ways very reminiscent of my Colt. I really like the feel of it, and like I was saying, it continues to grow on me. So I'm liking it a lot more, but the CO2 mag design, it's a complete letdown, I feel like. So if you guys are looking into this gun, just get a remote line. I think it's the best thing you can possibly do. So with all that said, let's go ahead and chrono the gun. I'm going to be using .2s, a Crossman CO2 12-gram canister. Let's give it a go. Alright, so as we saw, the gun is shooting anywhere from, I think, about 425 at the hottest when you first puncture that CO2 canister, and as low as about 370 when it leveled out after about 20 rounds or so. So just like any CO2 canister, it's going to shoot hot because of a lot of pressure, and eventually with that pressure drops and drops and drops, it's going to shoot softer every shot. It's kind of the nature of a gun like this. I'm struggling to give this a grade. Because I know what you can do with it. I know how it can perform. I'm going to give it a solid 7, I think. Out of the box, it's fun. Just the CO2 mag, I think, is a big problem with the design. I think Tippman, I think you guys need to redesign this and rethink it, and probably just distribute it as a gun that needs a remote line already. I think the CO2 magazine is a bad idea, and I think it's probably a waste of money and time doing that. But hey, to each his own. Some people might like the CO2 mag. It's up to you guys. I'd personally not run it. I'd say drop the extra couple $100 on a tank and a line and just go that route. That way you don't spend tons and tons of money on CO2 canisters. because you're talking, those are about $1 a piece, roughly, give or take. I'm sure you can get them cheaper, anywhere from 50 cents maybe. But that pretty much one for every magazine. So every 80 rounds you shoot out of this gun on semi or full auto, doesn't matter, you're going to invest 50 cents to $1 on a cartridge of CO2. That's more trash you got to throw out. That's more CO2 canisters you got to buy. In a year or two, that's probably going to end up just getting a hard remote line. It's probably going to pay for itself on a gun like this. So again, probably want to go with a remote line setup. Comes with everything you need to swap it over. You don't need to pay any extra money except for your tank and everything like that. So if you've already got a Polar Star, you could probably pick one of these up, convert it over, and you'd be set to go. So some things to think about with the gun. Again, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. The gun shoots great out of the box. It can be upgraded like crazy to really get something very fun and very solid, and very great performing, and you can do a lot with it. Again, there are quite a few proprietary parts. Pretty much everything in the receiver, grip, barrel, things like that. There are barrels and a lot of replacement parts and things like that. You can get a 20-inch barrel, you can get as short as I think a 12-inch barrel. There's a lot of options there too. So keep that in mind if you're in the market for one of these. 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Prodigy from Kilo 23. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'm going to be coming back hopefully pretty soon with a few more items. I've got some other things in the pipeline I'm working on. I just got to wait for the right day and time to film. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.